各位，保安
I now call to order the panel on security. We have attained the quorum, and it is time to get started. We have one agenda item: police's handling of public assemblies since September 26, 2014. Shall we invite the government officials in, please? In the light of the public assemblies held recently, and also in the light of comments regarding the police handling of those assemblies, and members would like to have some discussion on this particular issue. It is against this background that we convened this meeting. After the scheduling of the meeting, we have received from Ms. Claudia MO a motion to be moved dated the 16th of October, and also a motion by Mr. Felix Chung dated the 24th of October, and also another motion by Mr. Michael Tin on the 27th of October. I rule that these motions are relevant to today's agenda item. So they will be put to the vote at the meeting to see whether members find the motions agreeable. They will be put to the vote at the end of today's meeting. An objection? If not, then, as I said, the three motions will be put to the vote later on. The meeting is scheduled to start at 2:45, and I understand that members would like to have a fair amount of discussion on this subject. We are supposed to have the meeting for 2 hours till 4:45, and time is really tight. So with members' agreement, we will end the meeting by 5:30. Any objection there? Of course, we can end the meeting earlier than 5:30, but we are here no later than 5:30. All right, then with members' agreement, we will have the meeting until 5:30 today. With us for this item, Mr. Hon Kwok, Secretary for Security, Mr. John Lee, Under Secretary for Security, Mrs. Mi Ling, PAS for Security, Mr. Joseph Leung, Deputy Chief Fire Officer Headquarters, Mr. Edwin Lam, Assistant Commissioner Ms. Monica Ao Young, Superintendent Licensing, Hong Kong Police. There will be an introduction by the administration. I understand that there will be a video that will be played by the administration. Before the meeting, I have received suggestions from some of the members that some video clips be played in the course of the meeting. I think whatever video clips we play should have been seen by members. So if the clips have not been seen by all members, I am not prepared to allow them to be played. Mr. James To, Chairman. The administration is going to play some video footages, and if members do have in their possession certain footages that are relevant, they should be allowed to be played. Yes, I wouldn't disagree with that. I understand that you would like to play the clip by TVB about the 7 police officers incident. Yes, Chairman, some members said that they haven't seen the clip. I'm not sure whether they have. I have. Are there any members who haven't seen the clip? Chairman, I'd like to watch that again, because that will put us in context in our questioning. Mr. To, if you insist on that, fine. I am merely considering from the time constraint perspective. All right, and if there are no further questions, I hand you over to the Security Bureau. Secretary, please. Do we have the footage there? Perhaps before we get started with the discussion, we can play a little bit of the clip. The floor is all yours, Secretary. Chairman, thank you. This is the first meeting after resumption of LegCo. I have, or the panel, I have already given detailed account of what happened regarding the Occupy movement. I'd like to highlight a couple of points. Any expression of opinion cannot be in defiance of the law. In Causeway Bay, Admiralty, and Mongkok, and Tsim Sha Tsui, large assemblies were held regarding the constitutional reform and other subjects. The government respects people's right to a peaceful assembly under the law. But in exercising these rights, the members of the public are not unrestricted. The protesters should not charge a police cordon, disrupt public order, obstruct traffic, and act in defiance of the law. The Court of Final Appeal in the case involving Mr. Albert Chan and Mr. Wong Yok Man cited the judgment, and I quote, unless the court rules that the law is against the human rights and the basic law, we don't have any law that can be observed arbitrarily. Even if someone has very strong views about certain subjects, someone has to be held responsible criminally if an offense has been committed. No one is above the law. Otherwise, the rule of law will be out of the window. The right to assembly and procession has to do with the core values, but observation of the law is important. If one doesn't observe the law, then there is a risk that the law and the rule of law will be undermined. Without the rule of law, the development of society will also be undermined. The Occupy movement has deteriorated into a disruptive event since September 16th or the 26th. In the assembly, the acts of the radicals have degenerated into assemblies all over Hong Kong, and they charged into government buildings. They seized mill barriers, they assaulted the police, blocked the roads. They set up barricades to impede traffic. The peaceful assembly has deteriorated into events that disrupted public order, public lives, and violent events. Some protesters willfully caused trouble, and these acts have paralyzed the main trunk routes, and they have caused the wrath of the general public. On the 20th of October, some organizations sought an injunction with the court to stop these occupation of the roads in various districts. These occupiers of the roads act in defiance of the court order. They refuse to leave. They threaten other people not to implement the court injunction. I have to make it clear that the court injunction order is a serious matter. Those blocking the road should respect the court judgment. We don't want to see these occupiers act in defiance of the court order, because this will be detrimental to rule of law. Justice Jeremy Poon, in his judgment, said that the basic law protects the right of assembly, but nobody can block the roads. He pointed out that they are acting in the name of civil disobedience, but this cannot be taken to the extreme. This has been going on for many days. A lot of people have been affected, and there is a risk of turning into unrest. Whatever noble cause they have, there is no reason why the injunction should not be issued. Justice Jeremy Poon also said that the fact that they are sitting on the road will disrupt the social order, and they're affecting the livelihood of the taxi drivers. The blocking of roads will also get in the way of the emergency vehicles, and they are jeopardizing public safety. They have to balance this against other people's right to use the road. The Occupy movement is not simply a student movement alone. There are people from different backgrounds and different persuasion taking part. This has moved away from civil disobedience. On the 14th of October, hundreds of protesters moved into Long Wharf Road. They occupied the road, and they were having a scuffle with the police, blocking traffic. All these defiant acts, all these acts against the law, how can we associate them with peace and care? There were so many protesters surrounding the police that they were yelling and screaming. They were charging against the police. Is this peaceful? Is this non-violent? Following objects from height, there were protesters throwing traffic cones onto the road. They moved the news barriers. They set up barricades, and they put the manhole covers in the middle of the road. Is it a peaceful, non-violent act, or is it an act of hatred, or is it an act of violence? In Mong Kok, all these areas that have been occupied have become very, very risky. There are radical elements among the crowds, and they are organizing and orchestrating all kinds of charging activities, and they're causing chaos. Some damaged public properties, and they throw news barriers, stones, and they assaulted the police, and some were trying to surround the police. All these illegal assemblies in Mong Kok are bordering on becoming unrest. All these defiant acts have turned Mong Kok into a place which is not what we know of. And this has caused great damage to social problems. All these illegal activities, I strongly deplore all these illegal activities. Now, the fire services and the police will be briefing members on the Occupy movement's impact on the emergency work, and we will be playing a video footage, and then I'll be wrapping up thereafter. I hand you over to the FSD.
Mr. Liang Wai-hong from the FSD. Yes, Chairman. The recent road blockade has affected our emergency services in 4 ways. One, you have prolonged the time since the 28th of September. Many trunk roads on Hong Kong Island and Kowloon have been blocked, and there are many barricades on the road. There has been the need for road diversion and therefore traffic congestion. The FSD emergency services and ambulance services have been affected, and such impact is not happening only on the barricaded roads but also on roads around those barricaded areas. Very often, the emergency call rate can be seen before the barricading of roads, and that is from the 1st of January to the 27th of September. And if you compare that to post 28th of September, you will see that the reaching of target rate has been dropping from at least 1.3% to the highest 11.1%, and I'm talking about the emergency response time. But this is only a effect on the response rate, but it doesn't show all the impact that has been caused by road barricading. In many cases, we have been able to reach the scene within the response time. However, we were not able to act as quickly. And also with regard to emergency rescue services, we would arrive at the scene and start to provide the rescue service. However, during the transporting of the sick to the hospital, the ambulance staff would still have to provide rescue service on the ambulances. On the 5th of October, there was somebody falling from height, and the ambulance was able to arrive at the scene within 4 minutes, and that person had already cardiopulmonary stoppage, and we were trying to ferry this sick man to Ratanji Hospital, which would be the nearest hospital, and the trip should only take 5 to 6 minutes. However, from Kennedy Road going to Ratanji Hospital, that section of the road was hugely congested, and also Garden Road was barricaded. So the ambulance had to take the sick person to Queen Mary Hospital, and it took 17 minutes. And in the end, the sick person was certified dead on arrival. So the FSD, we will not be able to make use of the trunk roads, and we will not be able to access the nearest hospitals. So I can say that the present situation has caused consistent negative impact on our rescue services, and there is an opportunity of people's life and limb being seriously impacted upon. I like to emphasize that our fire services and rescue services cannot wait to be blocked. 1 small second's delay can cause serious injury and even the loss of life. For a person waiting to be rescued, 1 minute's difference is the difference between life and death. And in order to reach the scene in an urgent manner, the FSD would provide 2 different ambulances. In other words, they will send ambulances out from different ambulance depots in different directions, so that one of the ambulances would arrive at the scene on time. But if we do that, we are going to thin out the services for other districts. Secondly, it will also affect our managing of the fire scene. We would have to have hoses connected, and then we would also have to put up the ladders for rescue. However, if the barricades cannot be removed in good time, even if they could be removed in good time, there would be people and throngs of people gathering, and there would be temporary structures on the road, and that would again postpone the delay the time for rescue. On the 16th of October, on Yiwo Street, there was a signpost that was on fire, and the FSD would have to remove a lot of barricades, and together with 10 odd policemen, we had to remove the barricades together, and so that our fire engines could access the scene to make preparation. And also there would be a higher risk for buildings affected. The temporary structures and barricades are increasing in number on our roads. It affects our work, and also there would be a higher risk posed on the buildings nearby, because if there is a fire, there would be sparks or other sundry items that might fall down, and the people gathering there would be hurt, and then there could be the start of a fire on the sundry items, so the fire could spread to other buildings. And such would have a serious impact on the rescue services provided by the FSD. Thank you. Next. From the police, Mr. Lam. Chairman, we are dealing with illegal assemblies, and I can say that this is an unprecedented work. It is very complicated and of a large scale. Yes, Mr. To? Wait. Yes. Chairman, did we invite the Commissioner of the Police to come? We sent out invitation to the relevant departments, and they would be deciding who would come. Well, Mr. Lam has just said that this is quite unprecedented, and yet we only have the Assistant Commissioner here. It is up to the police to send which official to come. No, the CP should come, because even the Assistant Commissioner has said that this is a serious incident which has never happened before. Who make the decision? The administration would make the decision. Then the Secretary for Security would have to be held accountable for this. Mr. Lam, ever since the 26th of September, there was this assembly outside the government offices, and then some demonstrators engaged in illegal acts, and then it became an illegal assembly, and then it spread to trunk roads in Hong Kong, and these trunk roads were illegally occupied by the protesters. Huge barriers have been set up along these roads, and the daily lives of commuters have been seriously impacted. We have sent our police negotiators and also PPRB officials to try to lobby the protesters to remove the barricades. But regrettably, the illegal occupiers have refused. In fact, they have done even more. They have reinforced the barricades so that more people might be hurt because of confrontations or because of the collapse of the barricades. And also rescue vehicles and fire services vehicles have been blocked. The police were able to clear the barricade in Tsim Sha Tsui and also in some of the road sections in Causeway Bay and Mong Kok, so that the traffic has been restored in certain sections, and so that the trunk roads have become accessible for emergency vehicles. However, there are still protesters in Admiralty, Causeway Bay, and also in Mong Kok. They are still blocking the trunk roads, and the situation is still serious, especially so in Mong Kok. The police has been reminding the public and also the illegal protesters that actually Mong Kok has turned into a high-risk area, especially the occupied areas. There are people from different backgrounds, and there are radical people, and then we have seen organized confrontations and charging acts which disrupted public order. And also there has been the circulation of messages on the internet that people are called to engage in illegal acts. And we have already used the biggest restraint in order to tackle such illegal acts, and policemen on the ground were only doing their job, and they were trying to minimize the impact caused to other road users and the public, and to ensure public safety and public order. Even if the roads have been illegally occupied, and if these occupied people were threatened by the anti-occupy people, the police would still protect them, and the police would actually stand between the groups in order to protect people's safety. And also they would actually provide an emergency exit route for the protesters. However, this has attracted criticism from different quarters. They were saying, why would you condone the anti-occupied people who would disturb the occupied people? And also, why would the police be protecting the occupied side and prevent the anti-occupied side from taking down the barricades? The police would always remain politically neutral, and we don't want to be involved in political wrangles. We would just like to enforce the law, and we do not mind working long hours. We just like to have fair treatment. Frontline policemen are working very hard beyond your imagination, and the pressure on them has come from different sides. One, long hours have really made them so tired. And yet in the night, there would be people charging the police cordons in Mong Kok, and the policemen have been injured, and then there were the hurling of verbal abuses at the police. These people claim to be fighting for their aspirations in peace, but then they are not non-violent. Such charging at the police would only allow violence to spread and more people to get injured. And in this respect, frontline policemen would have to ensure their own safety and also the safety of those people whom they need to protect. However, they have met up with different difficulties. And then there are people who stand truth on their head, saying that the police have colluded with triad societies. This is smearing, a slur on the police. Is very disappointed. One of our operating principles is to crack down on triads. This is one of our important policies. we through the ranks in the police force just do not understand why there are such accusations. And then some policemen have been subject to search on the internet, and their own particulars and the particulars of their family members have been put onto the internet and revealed. And in fact, there has been calls to bully such policemen. I think this has been very disturbing. We all treasure the rule of law. We all treasure the very peaceful environment in Hong Kong. If there is damage to the rule of law, if the police cannot enforce the law anymore, who is going to benefit and who is going to be harmed? We would reiterate, we would work with one heart and one mind, and even if we face a daunting challenge, we will continue to hold fast to our position, and we will enforce the law to continue to serve the public. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lam. Secretary, is it that you'd like to wrap up? I'd like to play a video now, and if you allow, Mr. Chairman, I would make a very short summary. Yes, please.
有冇啲含住一糖，慢慢
係啦，
慢慢含住佢得唔得？
好，
可能你糖分唔夠一定
俾人走去佔住個糖。
得。
有啊，有水啊！喂，大咧啲水多唔多㗎都喎？係留翻啲俾我啊！有，唔好咁樣玩，大佬。呢個常喺度。喂，大佬係香港人，唔好咁樣，好唔好啊？可唔可以洗手？
今日我見到嘅嘢，我唔係要話俾大家聽發生咩事，我係想話俾大家聽，警察真係有保護我哋㗎今日。做咩冇偈傾啊？而家市民同警察係咪真係搞到冇偈傾走落啊你？幾難啊！係咪冇偈傾啊？我唔明喎，你答話我好唔好啊？你當初發誓講咗啲咩啊？你係一個成人嚟㗎喎。嚇！幫你話去飲啤酒，同人哋影開紋身，頂啦！醉酒嗰啲就唔拉去，係我問咗你咁多問題，你一條都冇答過我啊，Sir！你哋記唔記得當初入牛塘嗰時，我哋講過啲咩啊？嚇！有冇用翻新嘅機啊？拉皮狗嚟啊！俾咗貨俾邊個？佢爭就咪攞真係攞啊！成日鬧武器，好啊！一個隻幾差啦！
主席，係局長。會氣
Chairman. Over the past few weeks, the people of Hong Kong saw that the Occupy Central movement has become a train that has gone out of control, and Hong Kong has been dealt a blow. The movement has moved away from its peaceful track and is getting out of hand. This will only bring agony and disappointment to the people of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a place where there is rule of law, and we have been priding ourselves on the observation of rule of law. But there are some protesters who flouted the court injunction, and they're undermining the foundation for rule of law that has been around for more than 100 years. Is this the Hong Kong that as we know it? Is it the direction Hong Kong should be headed. Chairman, in less than a month, Hong Kong has experienced all these acts that are dealing a blow to rule of law. From the video clips, you saw that there were 4 serious occasions where they stormed the police. 28th of September in Admiralty, some radical protesters in an organized way stormed and charged the police cordon. 3rd of October in Mong Kok, the occupiers and anti-occupiers were involved in a scuffle. 14th of October on Long War Road. 17th of October in Mong Kok, they reoccupied the road surface. All these radical acts are undermining the peace and disrupting social order, and what is more important, they are undermining our society, and they're disrupting the daily lives of every single one of us. Some ask me, this endless occupation of the roads, this endless occupation, how long are they going to end? How soon will they see the life back to normal? I urge the occupiers and the protesters to ponder this very question, advocate the occupied zones in a peaceful manner so that we can see traffic back to normal and public life restored back to normal. Thank you. All right, there's some members have indicated their intention to speak, and here are the names: Claudia MO, Kenneth Leung, Charles Mok, Shen Kam Nam, Helena Wong, Sid Ho, James To, Michael Tien, Yip Kin Yuen, Ng Leong Sing, Yu Si Wing, Christopher Chung, Emily Lau, Felix Chung. Anybody else? Mr. Lam Tai Fai, Elizabeth Kwok, Wong Kwok Kin. Anybody else? Chen Kin Bo and Raymond Chan. Mr. James To made a point a moment ago that he would like to play some footage. Would you like to do it now? Chairman, we are discussing the police handling of the incidents. Now, the tear gas is a very serious matter, but there was not a single shot where there was a mention of tear gas being fired. I mean, don't they feel ashamed of it? Mr. To, you're going to get a chance to put questions later on. Now, my question to you is, do you want to play the footage now, or it's up to you, Chairman? I'm at your mercy. I think we can play it now because we can balance the picture. All right, let's play the clip.
咁樣我等秘書處喺度得未啊
Is it ready?
有罪人被警方扯走。記者都冇入，呢個係警察入咗我哋範圍應該嚇。聽埋少少唔該。聽埋少少。一個示威者雙手被綁上索帶，由6個警員帶走。抬嘅草地。警員將佢抬起。帶到去天馬公園一個暗角位，將佢放喺地上面，對佢拳打腳踢。期間兩個警員離開，留低嘅警員繼續用腳踢示威者。即一路放低咗就嚼。
喎，係咁踩緊喎。
警員最後帶走示威者，成個過程歷時近4分鐘。而警方喺驅散示威者期間多次施放胡椒噴霧，本台嘅攝影師亦都被噴中。
好，咁咧嗱。
Okay. I'd like to remind members that there are 19 members who have registered to speak. I don't know whether there are more. I suggest that I will give 5 minutes each to these 19 members and I will see how things go from there. Mr. Claudia MO, 5 minutes for you. The footage that we played would be so unfair to the public. It was totally lopsided. Who produced it? The launching of tear gas would have its 1-month anniversary tomorrow, but there was not even 1 second of the tear gas launching in the footage. And then the anti-Occupy people provoking the peaceful protesters. There was nothing of that in the footage, and you did not even mention it in what you said. Are you being fair? There was a TVB footage, but then you also edited your footage. Who did it? And you even put the word "end" on the screen. Was it done by the information services or the police? It was quite professionally produced and edited, and you even, I think you should give credit to the producer. You were very unfair. You were totally lopsided. Well, even if the footage was edited, as a Hong Konger, the impression that I get from it is that still the protesters did not use any weapons. They only used umbrellas, and of course they confronted the police. There are many good policemen in Hong Kong. And you showed a policeman giving water to the protesters. That was very moving. As the police said, they are also Hong Kongers. Why are we set against each other? You should be neutral. You should be professional. We have a lot of good policemen in Hong Kong. But just now, it was a little deliberate that you edited the footage in such a way, and also you chose what you said. Especially the secretary, you used the words like selfish, and then other people were of high quality, and then the peace and love were no longer there, and things had turned violent. Why don't you also show footage of anti-Occupy people provoking the peaceful protesters? Last Friday, there was a suspected triad people provoking the peaceful protesters. Why did you not even show 1 second of that on your footage? Are you being fair? The police, you must pay attention. Policemen are human beings as well. There are many police friends of mine, and they are very good policemen. But then you are not on equal footing with the citizens, because you have the helmet, you have baton, you have pepper spray, you have a piston, you are trained, you are professional. You cannot just say policemen are also human, and then all the wrong is on the side of the protesters. What about the responsibility of the anti-protesters? My question for you is, I think you are engaging in a brainwashing exercise. You just say this is illegal, and if you are engaged in illegal activities, don't even think, don't even imagine you should be protected by the police. Dr. Ko-man said that yesterday. If you have broken the law, and you have to reflect upon whether you should be protected by the police. I'm asking the Secretary for Security, do you subscribe to that statement? If you have broken the law, you are beaten, and then you are robbed, and still, sorry, this is an illegal assembly, and you should not be protected by the police. This is my first question. As a doctor, if you think a doctor should not be making such statements, please remind your colleague, because he is a doctor and he should not be venturing into the realm of security. And also, secondly, security, you used such descriptions. They were so shocking. And if you are really so hung up about this, why don't you ask the police to clear the sites? Why, if you say there is so much obstruction, is there a route map, a timetable for clearing out the sites? Secretary, I'd like to respond to this series of questions by Ms. Claudia MO. First of all, I have to point out that the footage that we played had all been taken from the internet. We were trying to show things from different perspectives. I would ask our members to note that. No matter on which side the protesters were, the police were there to maintain law and order. You could see that the police were trying to separate the two groups of people. Can the Secretary just answer my question? Please do not repeat himself. First of all, do you agree with what Dr. Kwok-pan said? And secondly, is there a route map and timetable for clearing out the sites? Next, Mr. Kenneth Leung. I'd like to draw your attention to one thing. You have 5 minutes. You should allow time for the officials to answer your questions. And also, at 5 p.m., I will have to process the 3 motions. Members, please watch the time. And also, when we discuss the motions, I would not give members the floor to speak on the motions. From the 17th to the 19th of October, when the police were driving away the protesters, there were riot-geared police who used batons to drive away the protesters, and many protesters were hurt in the head. I'd like the police to give an account of this incident. The police used batons to attack the head of people, whether it was deliberate or not. I'd like to ask whether it amounted to lethal force in the use of force principles. And also, between the 17th to the 19th of October, there was the use of baton to drive away the protesters. Was that an order by the field commander? And what were the considerations then on the ground? And why is it that you did not resort to pepper spray but opted for the baton? And also, in those 3 days, at Kwong Wah Hospital A&E department, it was said that there were about 28 people who were attacked by batons of the police and they were hurt in the head. This is a diagram shown by an American producer of baton. The green parts show that if these parts were hit by the baton, then there would be minor injuries caused. But if you look at the head of this diagram, the red parts, the head, the neck, and also the spinal cord, if batons would fall on these parts colored red, then there would be serious injury, paralysis, or even death that would be caused. So why is it that over those 3 days, the A&E department of Kwong Wah Hospital received 28 cases of head injury caused by the beating of batons? When the police train policemen to use the baton, is there an instruction for the police to only hit the crowd or protesters on the limbs if the baton has to be used? Now, the question is very clear. Can the Security Bureau or the police answer the question? Who will take the question? Mr. Lam. Chairman, the use of baton and pepper spray are within the realm of the use of force for the police, but they are at different levels. And when we use force, there is a principle. We have to do it for a lawful purpose, and we have to use the minimum force necessary to achieve that lawful purpose, and we have to stop once that purpose is achieved. And we will also do our best to remind and warn the people concerned. We will give them time to comply with our orders. This is the principle attending the use of force by police. As to the question asked by the member, I can also see that over those few days, The member said that there was not the use of pepper spray. I have to clarify that the pepper spray was used. No, Chairman, the main question is did you give instruction to the policemen that they should hit the protesters on the head with the baton? Or why, if not, why would 28 people have been injured in the head? Mr. Lam, we should watch the relevant footage. In fact, that was also shown just now. In that footage, we could see that, first of all, we were in a defending position. We saw protesters charging the police cordon with umbrellas. When we used pepper spray, we could not achieve the purpose. We, at the same time, used batons because we were trying to adopt a defensive mode, hoping that the protesters would not charge at us anymore. But then when we were charged, the baton could be used to come between the umbrellas and policemen. And that was indeed what was done. And if we could snatch away the umbrellas, we would. And if the batons were used for that purpose, and also when they used force, they could consider using pepper spray. In fact, we have very strict guidelines. No, I was asking whether the policemen were told to hit people on the head with a baton. You could say it was an accident. Why don't you just answer the question? Mr. Charles Mok and then Mr. Chen Kam Lam. Chairman, I heard the secretary reciting a script, and he was more worked up as he went along. I get the impression that the secretary is not keeping a cool head while he carries on the discussion with us. And I have heard the officials saying, criticizing the protesters. You did not adopt a humble attitude. Maybe both sides had to reflect upon what they had done, but then it doesn't help things if you polarize society. But that is not the question. Today we have heard the FSD and the police at this meeting. In fact, we could listen to Mr. Steve Hui every day at 4 p.m. You should not have to write your scripts again. And also you showed some footage. So, Chairman, I'd like to ask why is it that our panels have been relegated to be a machinery of propaganda for the administration? Could members also show a clip of 20 minutes? This is really lopsided. It was very selective. You did not show any footage where police would snatch away people's eye masks and face masks and then sprayed pepper spray on people at point-blank range. You did not show that. And I think what you had done just now by way of introduction was very lopsided. And the secretary repeated the rule of law. We also respect the rule of law. We like to maintain the rule of law in Hong Kong. I would also recommend that you read 2 articles in Ming Pao, one from Wang Wai Long and the other one from a barrister. They talked about the rule of law, and they said that the rule of law is not just about abiding by the law. That if you say that, that would amount to a hijacking of the concept. They would say that if public power is unbalanced, and if the executive will continue to undermine the rule of law because of political considerations, then the executive would have to take up that grave responsibility. Today, Mr. Secretary, you are asking people to leave. Yes, I sometimes also think that the protesters should better go home. However, this is a political issue. It is an issue for C.Y. Leung. Okay, you are impassioned in your speech. I am worried that you are just adding to people's agitation. In fact, I sympathize with the frontline policemen. To a large extent, they are also the victims. Well, apart from those who are using excessive force. But the vast majority of frontline policemen are also victims. But still, you cannot say that the protesters have to take up the whole responsibility. Now, of course, I don't for 1 minute support the surge of personal particulars of policemen on the internet, but then the same is happening to students. Why don't you also say that? As members and as officials, let us all play fair. Last time at the council, I also said that the police are setting the people on the opposite side. Today, the secretary and also the police, you have borne out what I said. Over the years, to the opposition party, including the Pan-Democrats and also to the protesters, you are viewing us as enemies because you are standing in your way. And therefore, the enemy of the enemy has become your friend, but at least they are not enemies, and therefore you shook hands with them. I was there on one night in Mongkok. I saw your colleagues exposed to the elements, and there was a huge torrent of rain, and they were suffering. But frankly, I'm sure even if I held out my hand, they would not shake hands with me. Why is it that the police have built up this culture? If you have this friend-foe mentality, why don't you admit it and then face up to it and not picture the situation as whatever the police do should be correct? It's just like what you showed on the footage. And this is a political issue which should not be dealt with by the police. Of course, the secretary, you are an official who should be politically accountable. You should not draw the police into the scene.
I believe that the way you deal with the matter will only worsen the situation. So, Chairman, I don't think I should have too much time for a response because your response is going to worsen the situation. The way you recite it from your script will make people feel so much more unhappy. I would rather spend all my time. You should do a little bit of soul searching. Please do not see the protesters as enemies. Well, it's up to the members of the public to judge, and this is broadcast live. It is for public judgment whether the officials are fair or not. Now, has the panel turned into a place where the government is giving the propaganda? We have made it very clear that we have invited the security panel, security bureau to come along. We should give them the opportunity to do so. The members do have their own time to speak, and they are entitled to their views. Mr. Chen Kam-lam and Mr. Wong Yong-man. Chairman, instead of spending 5 minutes criticizing the secretary and the police and leaving no time for a response, is this fair? The Occupy movement has been going on for about a month now. What the people see is becoming intolerable, and you are criticizing the Secretary for Security for not being calm and collected. Are you saying that the Secretary should keep silent and beg you, beseech you to not occupy anymore? Is it what you would settle for? I'm sure that over the past 20 days or so, the people of Hong Kong have seen it all. They have seen all these LegCo members, the scholars, the men of the cloth. They have done so much to instigate the public. From the clips that we saw what happened, we saw the scene of confrontation. We heard that someone was shouting, charge, charge, charge. Is this being peaceful? Is this non-violent? The Pan-Democrats, will they? I'm sure that they are happy seeing that they don't say anything to reprimand what happened. I think Hong Kong has come to a stage where it is very distressing to see what happened. Do we still have any concept of rule of law? Where are our core values? Day and night, we are instigating the students to go into harm's way, and they don't understand the legal consequences. The court may have handed down the injunction order. All these people who are always shouting fairness, justice, the barristers, the political parties, they are telling people that even if they get arrested, it's no big deal because the court, because of civil obedience, the court may not hand down serious punishment. They are playing down the consequences, and they are flouting the court injunction, and this is exceedingly dangerous. Now, this kind of anarchistic situation, and these protesters are really having the idea of staying above the law. As LegCo members, as someone who hold fast to justice, how can we face history? How can we face this society? So I feel that the pressure that the police are put under to maintain social order, notwithstanding all the abuses and insults that they were subjected to, the police are still committed to upholding rule of law on the front line. This is something that we should pay tribute to. We saw the violent acts in the recent past. Those who are affected are not so much those who got injured in the confrontation, but those who witness all these incidents. We are really hurt in our heart. So I feel that the people of Hong Kong saw this very well. I don't think we can or we should create chaos in the name of democracy. The economy has been undermined. The public life has been disrupted. How soon are we going to see everything back to normal? I very much hope that the police will be just as committed to what they have been doing, and I hope that the members of the public would give them every support and come forward and sign up against all these violence or violent acts. The more people coming forward, the better, because this is an indication that the people of Hong Kong would like to see social order being restored. Ms. Helen Wong and Ms. Sit Ho. Chairman, history has become a selective depiction of the situation. They're trying to create a historical account that is favorable to the government. If we are concerned about the truth or historical facts, I would suggest that we hold a public hearing inviting the occupiers of the various zones, including those who were beaten up, who were pepper sprayed, who were tear gassed, invite them all and play the footages and tell us what happened, and that would be fair. The secretary said that he collected all these clips from the web, and he put all these subtitles, and there was nothing about the tear gas being used. Chairman, I hope that the Secretary would address a question that was put that remains unanswered. Dr. Kwok-pan said that these people who committed illegal acts, they should expect the police to protect them. In other words, they occupied the area illegally and they deserve to be beaten up. Secretary, in answer to Ms. Claudia MO, I said, I mentioned what happened on the 3rd of October. On that night, there were some occupiers who were surrounded by, outnumbered by the anti-occupiers who surrounded them, and the police protected them. The police opened up a pathway for small batches of protesters to leave the scene. Is it the case that we're not protecting the members of the public? We don't care what positions the people hold. I'm glad to hear that, Chairman. So effectively, you're saying that what Mr. Kwok-pan said is wrong. The protesters are gathering as an act of civil disobedience. When the police see that they are at risk, will the police be protecting them? Secretary. Chairman, I can tell members that the police have arrested quite a lot of people. There were some who charged the police cordon, and there were also people who were suspected of beating up the occupiers. If you look at what happened over the past couple of nights in Mongkok, the confrontation became less serious, but among those arrested, they were not all occupiers. There were quite a lot who were non-occupiers who broke the law. Now, if we saw anybody breaking the law, the police would take action. In such a complicated situation, we cannot distinguish between the positions of different people. But as soon as the police saw people breaking the law, they would take action. Ms. Helena Wong, thank you very much. Mr. Dr. Koh's views do not represent the police and the government. I hope that Mr. Dr. Koh will retract what he said and offer an apology. In the protest zones, I talked to many people. They asked the councillors not to leave because if we do, the anti-occupiers will come and attack, and the police would not take any action. Now, when they get attacked, the police are really standing there with their arms folded. They're not arresting anybody. They're asking the occupiers to make the arrest. Once the thugs are arrested, they will be set free. Secretary, Mr. Lam can explain further. As I said earlier on, it is the police's responsibility to enforce the law. In these chaotic scenes, the police would have to maintain order to make sure that there will not be any serious physical clashes and injuries. The police would enforce the law. Even if they don't enforce the law there and then, they will take follow-up action. Mr. Toh and Mr. James Toh. Chairman, thank you. Now, one of the station sergeants in Mongkok said that everybody is innocent in Mongkok. The one who should be held responsible is not there. I think what he meant is C.Y. Leung. What he did, what he said, has really made rule of law a butt of laughter. If Hong Kong does have rule of law, why is it that unauthorized building works of Mr. Leung's residence are still not dealt with by the court? Why is he getting away scot-free? In his tenure, the chief executive has collected a huge sum of payment, and he doesn't have to give an account of what he did. Is this a rule of law that we're talking about? The first one who flouted the court order was C.H. Tung. He didn't observe the CFA ruling, and he sought interpretation of the law by the NPCSC. I think they are depriving people's right, and the senior officials, top officials, are getting away with it scot-free. Now, whether we are talking about principal officials or civil servants, they have to be fair in the enforcement of the law, and they have to be fair in what they say. The Secretary said a moment ago that it started off being peaceful assembly, and it deteriorated into violent acts. I think what you said at the beginning was right. It started off being a peaceful assembly. On 28th of September, I wonder why you declared that as illegal, and then you encircled the people, and you drew so many more people out onto the street. On last Wednesday, I put a question about what happened on September 28th through to 29th. 87 volleys of tear gas were fired. Where were they fired? What time were they fired? What was the situation like in the vicinity? I allowed the opportunity, the government an opportunity to explain themselves. Why didn't you show the clips about the tear gas being fired? We had so many questions put to you about tear gas. You uttered not a single word about this 87 volleys of tear gas that are being fired. You said absolutely nothing about them. You evaded the question, and I think that this is undermining the credibility of the police. If you think that on 28th to 29th of September, it was reasonable, it was necessary to fire the tear gas, why doesn't the government disclose more information? It evaded public questions.
Moreover, the police must remain politically neutral. When you face the Occupy movement people and the anti-Occupy people, if they are agitated, well, we on this side are of a small number, but those who engaged in anti-Occupy movement, they were beating the protesters. They pushed a woman onto the ground and then they were kicking her. I don't know whether she was punched as well. And then these people actually shook hands with her. You shook hands with her. You hurt the public's feelings, and you hurt the feelings of the dedicated policemen in your force. That would cause a lowering of morale for the police force. Secretary, you can answer this question. When can you let us know where the 87 canisters of tear gas were launched, and why and when would you become accountable to the public? Secretary, on Ms. O's question, we already replied to her and we already gave a reason. You asked why on the 28th of September that was an illegal assembly. We said very clearly already. And on the 15th of October, in answering urgent questions at the Council, I said very clearly why a lawful assembly deteriorated into an illegal assembly. I also said very clearly which section of the Public Order Ordinance we followed so that the police engaged in that action. Ms. Ho asked why we did not have any footage on the use of tear gas. When would you give the information? Mr. James To and then Mr. Michael Tian. Chairman, I can follow up on this question so the Secretary would have a chance to answer it. Historically, during the WTO Ministerial Conference, well, we held a meeting on that here at the panel. If you think you are in the right, I'm sure you would give extensive coverage on it. You would say how many commanders there were, at which hour, which minute, which second he was of an opinion, so he launched tear gas, and then what effect was achieved, etc. You should say something on this, because this is the focus of the community. I think you would have written pages on it. But strangely enough, we're having this special meeting here. But my observation and my view is, Mr. Secretary, it seems you have selected the footage. Now, if you had gone for the news, that would have been in the news. And I don't mind you saying that you should have a free hand in selecting the footage, and then the protesters were violent. They were shouting, "Go, go, go," and yet nobody was seen charging the police on the footage. And yet there was not even 1 second of the police using tear gas. How would you have removed it entirely from the action of the police? Now, my observation is that you know in your heart that you were wrong. So does the police. And then you created a mess by using the tear gas, and then the central authorities would instruct C.Y. Leung, and then who would instruct the CP to stop using it, and then at 1 a.m. He read from a script. That was what happened. It's very clear. And then Mr. Lam said today that this is quite unprecedented in the history of law enforcement in Hong Kong. This is a large-scale event that has been unprecedented. But the CP is not here. Mr. Lam has been very gentle, and he was not as impassioned and worked up as the secretary. I think Mr. Lam is acting in a very professional way. Is it that, Secretary, you don't want the CP to come because you think the CP would cause more confrontation, and that is why you're keeping him away from this meeting? But from the perspective of accountability, you should have asked the CP to come. You used 87 rounds of tear gas. It shocked the entire community, and you were occupying headlines in the international media, and yet the CP is not here. Even when he blocked a camera using a hand, and then the CP was here. He was so bold. He said something about it. He did not shy away from it, but I'm sure he is keeping away from the meeting deliberately. My observation and my view is that the administration knows that you have done something wrong in your heart. But according to the secretary, or according to the CP, in fact, he was taking CY Leung to the police station and to the front line to say that you were right, you were doing right, that the frontline policemen were moved to tears. Well, if that's the case, the CP should be here to say the police were right, the field commander was right. But no, that is clearly not the situation. You know in your heart that or reason is not on your side. So my question is very simple. A political event should be dealt with politically. If you want to catch the police in the middle, and if you are doing this to my colleagues in the police force, I believe CY Leung and the CP are not doing it right for the police force, and you know it in your heart. I met some policemen. I saw the policemen beat up people, and I was so unhappy about it, and I was asking myself whether it is because they could not control themselves. I of course, was very modest, but only 2 incidents had not seen people having been arrested amongst all the incidents that have happened in the Occupy movement. One, the throwing of excrement, the other one, the beating of the protester by 7 policemen. I will leave the details to Mr. Lam, but let me say something here. Mr. To, I respect your view, but I cannot agree with you. During this Occupy movement, starting from the 22nd of September, there were lawful assemblies held, and the police were assisting the conduct of such assemblies. But afterwards, some protesters stormed government buildings, and the peaceful assembly turned into something else. Mr. Michael Tian, Chairman, the Occupy movement has taken place for 1 month. Police, people relations, and police morale have hit a bottom low. The police should be acting according to the law, but today it seems they cannot enforce the law, even if there is the law. And the policemen were working flat out to tackle the incidents. And I also heard on the footage that there were the hurling of verbal abuses at the police. Even their families were abused, and there was no peace, no love that could be seen. And the radical protesters were trying to search for the particulars for the policemen and also the family members on the internet. They felt quite helpless about this. And what impressed me most was that the protesters would be using profanity towards the police, and the police tried to be professional and be patient. I believe they were acting in a very restrained manner. And in overseas countries, I would think that those protesters would have been arrested. But then the policemen are just human, and I don't know how they were putting up with this. I don't know whether there was any psychological impact on them. And recently, people are taking hampers and different gifts to police station in order to use it as an overture for peace for the police. I hope more will do this. Now, I'd like to ask the Secretary a question. have you sought an understanding into the morale of the police over the last month? I'm very worried about this because this will affect one of the pillars of Hong Kong, and that is law and order. Many friends of mine have asked this question: how many policemen have exhibited emotional problems and require counseling? Did they turn themselves up for voluntary counseling, or did you detect anyone with psychological problems? And also, do you have data to show us whether the policemen were working long hours and what were the longest hours worked by the police? I think I should defer to the police. Assistant Commissioner. Chairman, thank you for those questions. I will answer the last question first. As I said at the outset of the meeting, policemen are working flat out psychologically and physically because they work long hours, especially at the beginning outside the government offices. Illegal protesters besieged the central government offices. They were preventing a policeman in the changing of shift, and I think policemen had to put up with a stretch of 40 hours. That was quite serious. And as to psychological counseling, the policemen are tough men, and they may not want to seek help easily. And not many have come forward to seek help until this moment. Up to now, there have been 5 cases, and the police psychological service has been actively communicating with frontline officers. They know the pressure they are under, and they hope that by communicating with them, they can give some venting to that pressure. Number 2, the police have always attached importance to the psychological state of police officers, especially those involved in public order events. And we have said many times that we have professional training for the frontliners, how they should conduct themselves psychologically, and also how they can retain their self-esteem. In fact, we have given emphasis on this throughout this last period, and the higher ranks within the police force at different times of this movement have communicated with frontline officers and have been in close liaison with the 4 staff associations to explain to them the situation for the police. And there is very close communication within the police force. The member talked about people from different sectors or walks of life presenting flowers or saying kind words to the police. I think this is important. We like to see the support of the public. We like to see support from all sectors of the community. Okay, Mr. Ip Kin Yun and then Mr. Ng Leung Sing. Chairman, I'm not a member of the security panel. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. At the outset, I heard the secretary and I saw the clip shown that left me with a lot of unease. The meeting is on the handling of police of public assemblies. But then I believe this meeting has become an act of accusation on people's assemblies. From the clip, we could see that the police were scolded, they were charged, but then the police were very restrained and gentle. I think that clip was highly selective. There was no scene on tear gas, no beating of protester, no beating on the head with batons. I must say that I am always a teacher. When teachers face students, very often we would say it's all right if you commit a mistake. But the thing is, you have to admit the mistake. You have to face up to it. Then there would be a chance for you to right that wrong. But if you don't even have the courage to admit a mistake, how can I expect you to right that mistake? I think this is the biggest problem. I think we need to reconstruct relations between the police and the public, and also to rebuild the image and reputation of the police. I think this is a big issue, and we have to do it in different ways. Number one, we have to understand that in this event, the police are caught in the middle. This is a political issue which has not been resolved, but the police are pushed to the front line, and they are there to have to tackle the crowds. But then this must be handled in a political way. So the thing is, we have to have a political solution to the issue. Secondly, we must regard the police action in this issue. Maybe the police have done something quite good, but we should not just look at the good side and just cover another big problem with what the police has done well. We should not hide that problem. I think this is an excellent opportunity for the government to have a direct dialogue with the people to say whether the police have committed serious mistakes in tackling such assemblies, and whether they have done anything improper. I'm talking about tear gas, beating of protesters, etc.
If the government can offer a reasonable account of the situation, then I'm sure that the viewers of today's panel meeting will be convinced. Secretary, thanks very much, Mr. Yip, for the question. On Harcourt Road, we play some clips of what happened on Harcourt Road. The idea is to show that there were so many protesters storming the police cordon, and we couldn't maintain the cordon. They had to resort to other means, like pepper spray and so on, in order to put a reasonable distance between the police and the protesters, in order to avoid the cordon being broken with layers and layers of people charging forward. The cordon might be broken, and they resorted to tear gas. The front layer of people were very militant. Well, Chairman, I hope the Secretary would answer my question. What have the police done wrong in this whole incident? Or have they done the job perfectly well? Secretary? Well, the whole incident is still developing, and when the whole thing has come to an end, like what the police do with other major incidents, we would conduct a review to ascertain whether there are certain things that we should pay attention to. But I hope the members would appreciate that in dealing with what happened over the past month, the police have been exercising considerable restraint and tolerance. And I'm sure that from the media reports and from the commentaries, you can testify to that. Mr. Ng Sing and then Mr. Yu Si-wing. Chairman, this is a special panel meeting. I'm grateful to the Secretary for Security and the police for taking time out to join us. This is a dialogue, and this is not a public trial. Some members make it sound as if this is a public trial and they're putting the police on trial. And they are showing what they got from the web, and they are criticizing the government for being selective. And I think we are not given enough perspectives, and there are some questions as to whether the media are reflecting the whole thing. So the police are merely providing another perspective that is not covered by the public media. I think this is commendable because they're trying to cover all angles. I hope that the police will provide more angles for us in the days to come. In the whole incident, the police have been doing a lot to maintain social order, and they're making sure that the members of the public would have their life in order. They are guardians of the law and order, and they are becoming victims. And this is something which is bizarre in a civilized society. And some members are trying to put the police on trial. They are guardians of law and order, and they are being victimized. If this situation goes on, then it would undermine their ability to maintain law and order in Hong Kong. A lot of people in Hong Kong are also victims. Their daily lives, the traffic and transport have been disrupted. There are people who are sick, and there are emergencies that need emergency rescues, and people are going to be victimized. And there is a huge potential risk lurking there. Now, if in absence of any Occupy movement, we wouldn't have seen these anti-occupiers. I think we have to be fair as LegCo members ourselves. Is it the case that people are finding themselves in dire strait? They don't have any jobs. They don't have any. They have problems. Now, that's the case. Now, if the Occupy movement goes on, the economy is going to suffer, and I think it is wholly unwise, and it is wholly wrong to put the police on trial like this. We should support the police in their capacity as guardians of public order. Now, paragraph 5 of the paper referred to the fact that the use of force is intended to get the job done. Now, these people are acting illegally. It's the police responsibility to protect these people who are acting illegally. Now, the police will use minimum force. How do we define minimum force? We saw how restrained the police have been. As JPs, we visited the penal institutions. During our visits, the JPs are protected. And there were hundreds of people surrounding the police, and they were trying to seize the suspects. And this is a very dangerous situation. And this is wholly unfair. And if they try to seize the suspects from the hands of the police, then it will give rise to a lot of problems in our society. So my question for the government is this. Are we going to see some action being taken? I don't really want to see the situation drag out for too long. Mr. Yu Siwei, Chairman, for the past month or so, the police were subjected to insults and humiliation by the protesters. But day and night, despite the elements, they are committed to enforcing the law. They face all these protesters. I'm sure that the overwhelming majority of the police officers are facing the protesters with a reasonable attitude, in particular those who are storming the police in an unlawful manner. We saw from the footage 3 policemen, and they saw scores of protesters surrounding them. and at the risk of being injured, they tried to stop the protesters seizing the suspects from the police. There are so many policemen who are doing the same day in, day out. Despite all the severe pressure, they are committed to their work, and they should deserve a commendation. Now, is the government aware of the fact that there are so many policemen who are working so hard, and there are some examples that should be publicized for their peers, and they should be made known that the authorities are supporting them and encouraging them. And the Occupy movement is likely to go on, although we're not sure how long for. If we can give some commendation to the outstanding police officers, then I'm sure that they would be achieving some positive effects psychologically. So has the government done anything like that recently? Police. Assistant Commissioner. Chairman, thank you. At different times, we do give our colleagues a pat on the back, and different times we give them a thumbs up to give recognition of what they've been doing. Now the action is still going on, and we hope that we get the recognition of the members of the public as well. This is very important. Now the 20,000 or so police officers are working day and night, but we do need the support of 7 million people in Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Yeo. Chairman, of course, the members of the public should give the policemen their encouragement. When they see the policemen are hard at work, they should give them a thumbs up, but there ought to be some commitment on the part of the government. At the end of the incident, there should be some commendation for those police officers who are really performing outstandingly. Secretary. Chairman, indeed, for those who are performing or putting in outstanding performances, we do have an established mechanism to give them all the recognition. Perhaps my colleague can supplement. We do have commendation for the police officers. And I remember during the Lama Ferry tragedy, the chief executive also awarded the certificate of recognition to the outstanding officers. Mr. Christopher Cheung and then Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, thank you. A moment ago we saw the clips and they show sufficiently that notwithstanding the insults and humiliation that they were subjected to, they didn't react negatively. It was when they were stormed that they took action in response. The police have been working under tremendous pressure in the recent past, but they are still committed to their work, and they were acting professionally. They exercise considerable restraint, and they use minimum force to maintain safety of the occupiers and the anti-occupiers. We saw the footages, and I feel really enraged after watching them. There are some members who said that these protesters who are bordering on being mobsters, and they were described as peaceful demonstrators, and they are not making any distinction between right and wrong. I feel ashamed of all these fellow councillors. The protesters should not see the police as people to vent their anger on. In the violence that erupted, there were policemen who got hurt, and there were also family members of policemen who were subject to cyberbullying, and this is something that should not be tolerated in our society where there is rule of law. there were protesters who tried to storm the police cordon. The police said that the use of tear gas was intended to make sure that the situation wouldn't get out of hand, thus causing more injuries. And because people will fall over and they will get trampled upon, and serious injuries might occur. As a matter of fact, on that night, and nobody was seriously injured. I think it is attributable to the fact that the police have been enforcing the law in an appropriate manner. The movement has been going on for a month. The police tolerance is at a tipping point. Rule of law is dealt a blow. The economy is dealt a blow. And I think we have to make sure that our society will not be polarized anymore. And I hope that the occupiers would leave in a peaceful manner and bring an end to the movement.
I'd like to mention the businesses. A lot of economic loss has been caused by the Occupy movement. Many SMEs are already dealt a blow economically. My question for the police is, do you have a deadline by which law and order should be restored and for you to clear the sites? Secretary. The police are watching developments closely. At the appropriate time, they would take appropriate action. Thank you. Ms. Emily Lau and then Mr. Felix Chung. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, this is an umbrella movement to fight for universal suffrage. And it has attracted a lot of attention throughout the world, and I think the Secretary knows this. The absolute majority of the protesters are very peaceful until they were fired tear gas. You had wanted them to disperse by using tear gas, but the opposite happened, and they occupied the carriageways. I think this is not something you expected. You might think that people would just protest in a march and then they would go home, but then now people are not going home, and the movement has taken place for a month, and I believe this is beyond the wildest imagination of a lot of people and also yourselves. This is the 30th day into the movement. This is a political event. Why do you want to place policemen and protesters on different sides? We are very angered by the acts of some policemen, but we know there are other policemen who are dedicated to their work and they are under pressure. I am asking the administration to also give help to such policemen. Don't make them work 40-hour shifts. However, those who have done wrong should be taken to task. Why is it that the reporters were beaten and then you did not arrest anybody when the reporters were taken onto the police car? Those people who beat the reporters up actually shook hands with you. How do you think the public would view this? Do you think you should have done this? And then the tear gas. The UK government, the foreign minister, has said that he could not accept the use of tear gas in Hong Kong like that. Of course, we are not a colony of the UK anymore, but we bought tear gas from the UK government. And he found that this was unacceptable, and he might not give the approval of that company to sell tear gas to Hong Kong anymore. Why is it that it is unacceptable? Because you fire tear gas at unarmed protesters. When other countries used tear gas, there was a riot, and people would be burning vehicles and throwing stones. You did not want to show any footage on the use of tear gas because if you showed it, you would see that the protesters were not doing anything, and yet they had tear gas fired at them. So I believe there should be a solemn investigation into the matter, but the Secretary said that you would just conduct a review after the entire thing is over. We would not trust that you would do it. Would you invite Mr. Justice Lee Guok-lang to do a judicial investigation to return justice to everybody? I'm not saying that you are totally in the wrong, but at least allow a fair investigation to be done, because this was a a shock to Hong Kong and to many other countries. We should at least have a fair investigation to return justice to everybody, and then the police would know what to do and what not to do in the future. Secretary, Ms. Lau mentioned a few things. First, let me talk about the Tsim Sha Tsui clock tower reporter incident. I was not there myself, but I could see some footage on television when the police found that or met with a chaotic situation and that they knew that reporters were attacked. The police actually ran over to protect the reporter so that the reporters could leave in safety, and they were taken to hospital. And I don't know whether my memory is totally correct. And then I saw a policeman actually say that, please rest assured we are here to protect you. But then the reporter had already been beaten up. No, the thing is to protect the safety of the person. And then the Serious Crime Bureau is tasked to investigate the matter. And yesterday we already arrested a suspected attacker. And we do not rule out the further arrest of more people after gathering more information. Reporters have as their job the gathering of news, and the reporters and in fact the safety of any other person on the scene would be a matter for the police, and that is why the first thing to do when that happened would be to protect the personal safety and then escort them away. But of course, afterwards, the police would have to tackle the other side. You mean including the shaking of hands? You mean they would shake hands? No, that is a separate matter. No, it happened right after the incident. Those people beat people up and they clapped and then they shook hands with the police. No, we would have to go after the perpetrators. And indeed, the police worked fast and they already arrested one person. We would pay close attention to this incident and we would continue to investigate into it. Mr. Felix Chung. Thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong is a society of the rule of law. We all agree that the rule of law is a core value for Hong Kong. The police are there to protect the life and limb of the public, and then they maintain law and order. But from the clip, we could see that the protesters charged the police. There were only 2 layers of police, but then there was serious charging by the protesters. If it had been a peaceful protest, Chairman, I walked out just now and I saw many protesters on Harcourt Road. I could not see even one policeman because no policemen were required in a peaceful assembly. But then from the clip, we could see that the protesters were charging the police. If they had been sitting down, as they are on Harcourt Road, why would tear gas have been used? We understand it's inappropriate to use tear gas. It's not right. Not at that time. But then after the protesters were tear gassed, nobody charged the police anymore, and the police were caught in the middle. There were only 2 layers of them, and they were facing thousands and thousands of protesters. If the protesters had been sitting down, then tear gas would not have been required. Not even pepper spray would be required. But we would have to defend the rule of law. We know the rule of law is being undermined. The High Court had already issued injunctions for the entrance to the car park of CITIC Tower and also in Mong Kok. My question for the Secretary is, in the end, it would be up to the police to enforce the injunctions. We also hope that the injunctions would be enforced. The police would enforce the injunctions not to clear the sites or to drive the protesters away, but just to open up the road for the rest of the community. The police would not be there to disrupt peaceful assemblies. The assemblies can continue to go on pavements. If you choose Mong Kok, you can go to a stadium or playground. Let us have the roads to use again, and the police would just be helping the 7 million people. My question for the Secretary is, how would the injunctions be enforced? Secretary, Mr. Chung, the injunction is a civil mechanism, and the court would mandate that the protesters should leave and the applicant of the injunction can clear away the barricades, and it would be up to bailiffs to enforce the civil injunctions. The police role is that if somebody breaks the law, when the injunctions are enforced, then the police can enforce the law. As far as I understand, there is a hearing on the application for continuing with the injunctions. Before I came to the meeting, I understand the hearing was still going on, and the government council is addressing the court. If the court would approve of a continued injunction, and if the court would also issue an order for the police to assist in the enforcement of the injunction, the police would certainly do their part. But as to how this is actually to be done, we have to wait for the court's orders after the hearing is over. Thank you. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, and then Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Chairman, the massive Occupy Central movement has gone on for a month. We can all see how it is affecting the community. We know it in our hearts how this is affecting the community, and we also know that police public relations have gone to abysmal levels. Should we continue to support the movement? Well, it depends on your individual view, but I'm sure very soon we will make a wise decision. No matter what, until today, I'm still of the view that Hong Kong is one of the safest cities in the world. Hong Kong is what it is today, must be related to the professional work attitude and performance of the police. I'm sure Hong Kong's success today has everything to do with how the police goes about its work, and I have confidence in the police. Chairman, if there is good relations between the police and the public, then it would help us defend law and order. However, if the two sides confront each other, there would be unrest in society, and we will not be safe anymore. Therefore, the police and the public should not be on opposite sides, because if they do, no one will benefit. Everyone would be harmed. From the clip we saw just now, we could see that the police used excessive force. But then I could also see that the protesters also violently attacked the police. They insulted the police, and they even assaulted reporters. If we only look at individual incidents and say which side is correct and which side is wrong, I think that would be too superficial, and it's not fair. When we want to judge who is right, who is wrong, we have to know where we stand, what perspective we use. Very often, to judge what is right and what is wrong, we have to stand in other people's shoes and see it from the other's perspective. If today the protesters would don police uniform and become a law enforcer, what would they think? And if UBPC would take down his uniform and become just an average citizen, how would the police view the entire incident? So my question for the Secretary is, in a society with rule of law, shouldn't we act according to the law? If we do, then should we have different sets of laws for different people? Now, when I ask this question, I'm not asking you to tell me how differently you handled Henry Leung's and C.Y. Leung's unauthorized building works. But when protesters and the police are both using force, one side has been criticized that they are just like rubbish, that they should be interdicted, that they are dogs. But when the other side also used violence, someone was pouring water on the police, and then they were held up as heroes, and some people say that they should not be prosecuted. And then a member criticized the Secretary for being unfair in his speech. Now, I cannot say whether the member was right or wrong, because fairness is subject to different yardsticks in different people's minds. But then we have to remember something, and that is, we know what is fair in our hearts. Maybe we have different yardsticks for fairness in our minds, but then the public would know what is fair and what is not fair. So my question for the Secretary is, should we have different laws for different people? And also, over this past period, I would say that I really appreciate the representatives of the Hong Kong Federation of Students. I really appreciate their adamant fight for democracy. But then they said, recently, they said that they would turn themselves in to the police after the event is over because they know they have broken the law. I would say if someone says, I have broken the law, and then I would take my children to turn ourselves in to the police, can we accept it? Are we having different laws for different people? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Lam Tai Fai, for your support for the police and your confidence in the police.
So,
I agree with Mr. Lam. I think justice is in the hearts and minds of the members of the public. Anybody who violates the law should be dealt with according to the law. It doesn't matter what capacity, what views and political positions one holds. I go along with Mr. Lam that the police are not on a collision course with the members of the public. So I've been urging the members of the public to support the police in their work. Thank you. It is now 4:45. I have with me 4 more members. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, Mr. Wong Kwok-pan, Mr. Chen Kin-po, and Mr. Raymond Chan. The Secretary, or 10, have already spoken, and there are 10 more members who would like to speak. Now, if I draw a line at 5:30, then I'll be giving each member 1 single minute, and we have to put the motions to the vote, and we will leave 5 minutes for the motion to be voted on. If you want to extend by 3 minutes, then we will be here till 6. It's all up to members. If I end the meeting at 6, and if I give members 3 minutes, then after the voting on the motion, I'll give members 1 minute. All right, it's subject to members' consent. We're here till 6. I can't have any objection. You object? Chairman, I'm not raising objection. The speakers before me had 5 minutes, and now we are given less half the time. I'd rather have a sequel to the meeting instead of curtailing the time. Well, if members agree, then we can continue. We don't have any venue problem. If members see the need, then we go along with that. But I mean, we have to exercise some control on the time. I've already drawn a line there, and I've already done that. If you're agreeable, if there is an objection to the meeting being extended to 6, I won't do it. Any objection? Simple as that. Any objection? Mr. Wong Kwok-pan, Chairman. I think you've been extending the meeting. We were meant to end the meeting at 4:30, no, 4:45. Now it is extended to 5:30, and you are extending it further to 6. I expected the meeting to end at 4:45, and you keep extending the meeting. Is not fair to us. All right, I won't do it even if there is one single objection. Simple as that. Any objection to any further extension? All right, we have an objection. Let's end the meeting at 5:30. As I said, we have to put the motions to the vote. And any questions? Each member will be given well, if you have another meeting, a follow-up meeting, the members will not be concerned. I think the best course of action is to arrange a follow-up meeting. This is a really important issue. It doesn't matter whether you put the motions to the vote today. We're going to have a regular meeting later on. Now we have the motions on the table. I said at the beginning that we will deal with the motions today. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok. Chairman, whether we're talking about the government clips or Mr. James To's clip, we saw them on the web. There were violent scenes that disturbed the members of the public. They were really angry about them. Some raised questions as to why we didn't see what happened on the public media. And I think we can always search all these clips on the web. Some members expressed sympathy for the police and said that they're the victims. And some even said that we have to resolve these political issues in a political way. Why do we have to put the police in the middle? They can't react to the verbal abuse. And I didn't hear any criticism of the violent and the drastic behaviors. If these are political issues and they have to be resolved politically, there were pan-Democrats who urged people to join the Occupy movement. Why don't they urge people to not storm the police and clear a path for the people of Hong Kong? I think today we should not be talking about whether the police have done it right or wrong. We have to discuss whether the councillors are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Some said that if we got it wrong, we have to admit it. To show a good example for the young kids. Now, with the Occupy movement, many people feel that this has been wrong. They may start off with the good intention of fighting for democracy, but what happened today is making people very angry because we don't know how to bring this to an end. Why don't the teachers urge the students to admit to their mistakes? Some said that there should be a timetable for the clearance. Now, I would like to put this to the police. How are they going to clear the sites? They meet with resistance, even if they clear the mills barriers. If they want to clear the zones, will they have to resort to further force? If tear gas fails them, what's going to happen? Do the police have to open fire? Do you want to see bloodshed on the scene? Now, this is not a subject for discussion today. We're not God. We don't know the whole truth. You are trying to lay blame on the police. You're asking for the commissioner to step down, and you are putting the police on trial. I think a trial should be left with the court, not here. The police have been subject to a lot of humiliation and difficulties. On the streets, we have seen 650,000 people signing up in support of the police enforcement of the law, and this is a recognition of the work of the police. I hope that the police would be able to maintain law and order and rule of law, and I must extend my words of concern for the family members of the police officers. They were subject to just as much pressure. I think today we have to instead talk about how to resolve what happened outside instead of the topic we are discussing. I'd like to put a question. On the 28th of September, I saw in eclipse somebody shouting, "Charge, charge, charge," and there was someone who was in command. It seems to me that it was premeditated, that the guy who commanded the whole thing, should he be subject to prosecution? Should he be arrested? Secretary? Not only September 28th, in the whole incident, all the suspects, all the suspected acts will be dealt with in a serious manner. Mr. Wong Kwok-pan and then Mr. Chen Kin-po. Chairman, since the Occupy movement occurred, Hong Kong has been torn apart between friends, father and son, spouses, and they do have flaming rows between them because of this Occupy movement. But we all agree, we all seem to be in agreement that the police are really working very hard. Whatever your political persuasion, they're all in agreement that the police are working really hard. Over the past month or so, we've seen the police working so hard. They don't have good sleep. They can't eat well. They can't sleep well. And they're subject to so much pressure, and they're subject to abuses and humiliation. Some said that the police have to put up with all these pressure. If they have certain demand, that the police would have to be subject to these kind of pressure. On the web, I saw a color revolution manual in which it says that they have to target at the law enforcement agencies. They have to confront the law enforcement agencies in a drastic way. As a result, the regime will collapse. It would not be possible in Hong Kong if the police do not enforce the law. Somebody else is going to enforce the law, and this is the last thing we want to see happen. And color revolution, now some say that this is not a color revolution. Now this is not a color revolution that will come to pass, but we do not deny the fact that somebody is trying to have to cause this color revolution. And they see the police as getting in the way of this color revolution. In the whole process, the police are the obstacles, and they are besieged, they are really becoming the target. Today, the Security Bureau prepared some footages, and some members expressed grave displeasure. And I think sometimes we have right the wrongs. Now these footages we cannot get access to in the mainstream media. Maybe they're on the web, but if you don't log on the web, you don't get to see all these footages. As to whether the media are fair enough to show everything, I think this is playing to everybody whether or how the media are performing in this whole incident. I think at the end of the day, we have to be realistic. Some members, and there were many people who said that these are political issues and we have to resolve them in a political way. Why do we have to put the police in the middle? Do we have to resolve the issues with force? Now, the Hong Kong Federation of Students had a dialogue with the government. Is it a political issue that the police do not clear the sites so that people can come down and think about the issues, and so that they would be prepared to leave? And they are resolving the issues in a political way. Are you saying that the police should not enforce the law? They should just step aside? Now, when there are confrontations, they turn around and accuse the police of not protecting them. I'd like to put this to the police. You do have the responsibility of protecting the public. When the protesters are subject to danger and when they're attacked, you should protect them. But when there are people dismantling the barricades, should the police protect the barricades that are put up by these protesters? Secretary? Let me cite an incident. There was, Secretary, I don't think I can allow you to go on because of the time constraint. Mr. Chen Kin-po, please. Chairman, thank you. The Occupy Central movement has been hijacked by somebody, and this has been hijacked by the radicals. How can the police make sure that these radicals who are mixing in with the peaceful protesters, how can the police separate them? From the web, we saw that there are some protesters who are occupying the roads, and there are some who are in support of the Occupy movement who turn around and say that they are reporters.
And it was very difficult to identify who is a real reporter and who is a peaceful protester. And I think it's not easy. The LegCo has experienced this. People would claim themselves to be reporters and they asked to come in, and the Secretariat don't know what to do. There is no system to really help us identify real reporters from the fake ones and the self-proclaimed ones. Every time there is a clash, there are many people involved, and sometimes people say there are more reporters than reporters. They will be holding up cameras in their hands and they don't know whether they are reporters. Some of them claim themselves to be from overseas. But even if they are real reporters, how can you make sure that they are fair and just? Please, order, please. We want reporters to be fair and just, but we are very disappointed with the media in Hong Kong, and I think many people share our feelings. I'm not saying that they should side with some protesters, but at least you should be fair. And in fact, many people are disappointed with the media. I can tell you that my friends and many people are saying that the media is not doing it right. They should be reporting on different things, but then they choose not to. People say that they need to surf on the web because they can't see everything on the mainstream media. But for the aged ones or those who do not use the computer, they will not be able to get all sides of the story. But I understand your difficulty. How do you tell the real media from the fake ones? Secretary. Mr. Lam. Chairman. The police always try to be accommodating for the work of the media and cooperate with them. Whenever there is a large-scale event, we would hold a liaison meeting with reporters. And if we are talking about October 1st, July 1st, or where there is a fireworks display, we would let reporters know the relevant arrangements. And in special large-scale events, will arrange for the media liaison team to be on site. So there will be effective communication with the media on site. This has happened in previous large-scale events. Our media liaison team has always been helping. They would be on site to contact the media, communicate with them, and let the media know what is going on and how the police will be going about their work. We have always tried to help the media. No, my question is, how can you tell the real media from the fake ones? Can you focus on that question, Assistant Commissioner? In Hong Kong, if we are talking about large media organizations, we always have contact with them. As for overseas media, we'll try to liaise with them and maintain communication. Thank you. In other words, my question has not been answered. My second question is, how can you separate the radical from the peaceful protesters. There are many people who engage in peaceful protests, but then there are a few hundred who are charging the police. How can you separate the two groups, and will you prosecute the radical ones? Chairman, in terms of prosecution, we'll be gathering evidence, and we rely on the public to forward us with information, so we can gather as much information as possible. The member asked how we could tell the real media from the fake ones. Reporters should have their reporters' cards and also some kind of identification issued by their organization. But there are internet radio stations or other organizations like that who claim themselves to be reporters. Mr. Raymond Chan, yesterday, Dr. Kwok-pan said that the occupiers break the law on the one hand, on the other hand, they want the police to enforce the law, so they should reflect upon themselves. I think it's so shocking. If an occupier is hurt and he goes into hospital, does it mean that the doctor should just ask him to reflect upon what he has done instead of giving him help? Now, if we go by that logic, there are pregnant women from the mainland coming into Hong Kong illegally. So does it mean that these people should not be helped and instead they should be asked to reflect upon themselves? So, Secretary, if someone is suspected to have broken the law and he raises his hand, he is not hurting anybody, but then someone else should attack him, then the police should still protect him, right? So his personal safety should still not be undermined. Just now the Secretary cited the example on the 3rd of October and what happened in Mong Kok, and we saw the clip. I agree, and the even Wall Street Journal agree that the policeman protected the protester. But then the police saw that the occupier was attacked, and then the police was seen to be saying that it's not that I don't want to protect him, but let him be beaten for a while first. So my question is it that if the occupiers have broken the law, then the police will not protect their personal safety in the first instance and would leave them to be beaten for some time first? Is that the guideline? Is that the direction the police are taking? Or is it that the police are choosing to do this? I was not there on the 3rd of October, but on the 13th of October, a Monday afternoon, there were masked people on Queensway who were trying to clear the site. I saw it for myself. You call these anti-occupiers, and they were beating the occupiers, and the police just stood there without doing anything. And then the onlookers were shouting that the police should be doing their job. And then the police started to try to separate the groups. And then in the end, there was somebody beaten up, and then the police still did not act. And then there was some very smart onlookers, and then the police number was shouted out, and the policeman was made to act. So even if they were not totally passive, they were reacting slowly. They were trying to see what happened first. It's just like the WSJ said, that the police were standing there leaving protesters to be beaten up first. But then as I said, the onlooker shouted out the identification number of the police, and so the police acted. And also on the web, we could see that the police were wearing reflective vests, but then they would cover their identification number. And of course, they were told to review them, but then they did not do so. I'd like to ask you whether you received any complaints talking about police covering their identification numbers deliberately, and if yes, what would be the punishment? Secretary. First question, regardless of the status, background, or position of a person who is attacked, the police would do its best to protect him. Now, as to how quick the police can do it and how effective the protection is, then of course, this would depend on the situation on the ground. I gave you a few examples. Mr. Chan, I don't know whether you were trying to say and point to the masked people trying to take down barricades. Yes, on the 13th of October in the afternoon. If I remember correctly, I think the police had arrested a group of people, and my understanding is many of those were people who were tearing down the barricades. I myself saw on TV that the police did something with a person wearing a mask. The police subdued him and took him away, but I don't know which side he belonged to. I was not at the scene, but I saw live coverage on TV. No, Secretary, the thing is not whether you would arrest the person in the end. I'm talking about whether police would allow some people to be beaten for a while first. If the police see anybody breaking the law and attacking another person, the police would take action as quickly as possible as the situation permits. As I was saying, sometimes you have to protect the person being attacked and escort him from the scene first. I cannot give you any hard and fast rule for every situation. We have to trust the professionalism of the police. We still have Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, Priscilla Leung, Fernando Cheung, Leung Chi-chung, Kwok Wai-kang, Alan Leong, Yik Chi-ming. All of you would have 1.5 minutes. Leung Kwok-hong. And also Ma Fung Kwok. I haven't even got my first round. You did not raise your hand. I already drew a line. I did not have your name on the list. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Chairman, I could see on the web saying that there was a fake photo. There was a reflection, but then we could see that it was some kind of fake evidence. We would show you the picture later, but I would reprimand you. I can do it after the meeting. Secondly, there are 3 organizations which use the blue ribbon, and then they were at Tsim Sha Tsui. They had a gathering for a few hours and they were beating reporters. We have had this movement for 28 days and nobody beat any reporters. You said you would defend the press freedom, but the gathering only went on for 3 hours. They beat reporters and then they shook hands with the police, supporting the police's work. You appealed to the public to say they should contact you if they saw any laws broken. Well, you must be sick. Your policeman shook hands with those people, and if the policemen had not washed their hands, there would be forensic evidence gathered already. If you say what happened in Tsim Sha Tsui was proper, in other words, the policeman witnessed reporters being beaten and the police then shook hands with the attackers, just say it was proper. But I would say no. That shouldn't be tolerated at all. Ms. Priscilla Leung and then Mr. Fernando Cheung. Chairman, I have been talking to people. I have been serving on the web, and people seem to be saying that they would want the police only when they need help. At other times, they would scold the police. And then there was a picture at a nursery saying that the teacher would be talking to very young children, saying that the policemen are rogue policemen. I am shocked by this kind of culture. Hong Kong respects the rule of law, but if there are isolated incidents where the police or the protesters have broken the law, then we should investigate. But then if you go for such a jingle-like kind of slogan saying that we should go to the police if we need them, but then if we don't need them, we should be able to scold them. I think this shouldn't go on. If we undermine the morale of the police, do you want our policemen to become those in the Philippines, where the police drag their feet in helping the public? Now, we don't want to see that happen. We should allow the police to do their job. In Hong Kong, we use the common law system. You should go for due process and prosecute people if they are wrong. We should not allow the media to conduct public trials. We should help to maintain the morale of the police. They have a unique task. Mr. Fernando Cheung and then Mr. Leung Chi-chung. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, If arrests have been made, then we wouldn't comment, but then arrests have not been made. Mr. Fernando Cheung, Chairman, I like to say this to the police force. We still respect the police a lot. We also know that the great majority of the police are doing their job properly. But indeed, we saw some acts of the police which were beyond our imagination. We wouldn't think that the police would use tear gas and baton on peaceful, unarmed protesters. The police have public power. They can use force lawfully. And their force would be greater, maybe 100 times, than that coming from the public. So as policemen, they should exercise all the restraint they can. However, we did see that some policemen did not exhibit a high level of restraint. And today, many people are becoming quite prejudiced because they take a different political stance. No matter what footage you show them, and even if they see reporters beaten up, some of my friends would say maybe the reporters were provocative. That is why they were beaten, and it's only right that they are beaten. I think they have become quite blind to reality. However, as policemen, you have always to maintain your professionalism and political neutrality and protect the public.
Mr. Leung Chi-chung, I think we can see that hundreds of thousands of people have signed up in support of the police. I think the police ought to do something to clear the blockades or the barricades. Otherwise, they question whether the police are worth their salt. They have the vehicles being searched on the way to deliver the supplies. On Long Wall Road, there were so many policemen who were besieged. It's just like a couple of sheep that have fallen into a tiger's den. Dr. Fernando Cheung said that the police do enjoy the power. They can use really quite a bit of force, but they were surrounded by a few hundred people. On the 28th, the hundreds or thousands of people stormed the police cordon if they didn't resist the protesters. The casualties could have been really staggering. We have members from the legal sector. They should have. They should show their conscience. Mr. Kwok-pan and Mr. Alan Leung, Chairman. The pan-democrat members seem to make it sound as if it is fair, but basically they're saying that most of the policemen are good, but it's only a handful who are bad, and therefore the police are bad. This is their logic. I think we saw that the protesters, some of them were storming the police, that they seized the news barriers, they blocked the traffic. Why do you not mention this? That they aren't speaking in defense of this mess that they have created. Why are they so hypocritical in their remarks? The police officers are enforcing the law in accordance with the law. And these lawbreakers are saying that they're fearless. I think those law-abiding citizens are even more fearless. They said that these are political issues. They have to be resolved politically. Since this is a political issue, in your view, you should not disrupt public life. And you're asking the police to maintain law and order. And if you did not organize these assemblies, nothing would have happened. And you are being amateurish. I traveled on the MTR just now. And I heard a lot of criticisms of the Pan Democrats. Mr. Chen, well, I sympathize with Mr. Kwok that he may be held up in traffic. Now we're faced with a big crisis. Mr. C.Y. Leung's popularity rating is 38.6%, and the whole of Hong Kong are suffering. Mr. Felix Chung said that if you are sitting there, the police would not tear gas you. On the 27th of September, the protesters were sitting there. It was 6 a.m., 6-ish. There were policemen storming out of the LegCo building. They were tear gassing. They were pepper spraying the protesters. They were dragged on the road. And I was there. I think you're blindly supporting the C.Y. Leung administration. The police, like the members of the public, are just caught in the middle. Secretary, yesterday you saw reporters being assaulted. Go arrest them. Go arrest these people. Go gather evidence. Ken Zhang was roughed up by 7 policemen. He was beaten up. How soon are you going to bring these policemen to justice? Why do you spend so much time on investigation? Mr. Zhong Shukan and then Mr. Frankie Yik. Chairman, I saw all these clips, and I want to say something here. There were 3 policemen who were surrounded by dozens of thugs, and it seems to me that they find themselves in a lion's den. Police vehicles on their way to deliver supplies, and they were subject to search. Under what chapters and verse would you have the power to search a police vehicle? There was a policeman who was taken ill, and he called for the ambulance, and the ambulance was not allowed in, and there was a policewoman who had to kneel down in front of Leung Kwok Hong. Do you have any humanity? Is this a movement that's characterized with peace and love? Where is the love? Where is the peace? Chairman, this movement has really taken a turn for the worse. The whole of Hong Kong don't like it. In 2 days, there are 600,000 people signing up. How many people do you have? You have a small handful of people blocking City Tower. The court has handed down the injunction order. Mr. Frankie Yik. Chairman, thank you. On October the 15th, during the adjournment debate, the Secretary already gave the explanation as to why tear gas was used. We doubt why you didn't disperse the people after the tear gas was used, and why do you allow them to gather? And this is causing a lot of damage. Now, there is some accusation that the police are not enforcing the law. Now, my sector feels that the police are indeed a little bit unfair, because they feel that if the police didn't enforce the law against these protesters who are occupying the road, the members of the public are adversely affected. They feel the police have to enforce the law quick. So they like to put a question here. If the police do not enforce the law against the protesters, how can they maintain the rule of law? How can they restore social order for the benefit of the people? Secretary. Chairman, thanks very much, Mr. Yik, for the question. Not only the police, the whole of Hong Kong very much hope that the occupiers at the 3 protest zones in Hong Kong would vacate the sites as soon as possible. If the police have to enforce the law, they will have to resort a certain level of force, which is something we don't really like to see. Right, that's it for the questioning, and now move on to the three motions by Ms. Claudia MO, Mr. Felix Chung, and also Mr. Michael Tin. Chairman, I don't have the motion in front of me. They have been distributed to members. I'm logging on. I'm writing to read it out, please. This panel reprimands the police handling of the assemblies. They are resorted to excessive force. They used many rounds of tear gas. They caused panic. The police failed to enforce the law in a fair manner. And we urge the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Andy Zhang, to step down to take responsibility. For those in favor, please raise their hands. For those in favor, please raise their hands. Right, we call for division. All right. For those in favor, please raise their hands. Please ring the bell for 5 minutes.
It
is 5:30. After the 5 minutes, we still have two motions. Right, as I said, we'll proceed to the voting of the other two motions. 1 minute? Not necessarily. We can proceed to the other two motions straight away without the 5 minutes break. I've already decided on this at the very beginning. No objection was raised.
點都要快，而家會讀。
咁你開始咗，我覺得點都好。我做咗座位表㗎啦。
好。
Members who are in support, please read out the names. Claudia MO, Raymond Chan, Sit Ho, Leung Kwok Hong, Kenneth Chan, Alan Leung, Kenneth Leung, Charles Mock, James To, Emily Lau. Those who object, your name has been read out. Those who object, Priscilla Leung. I'll let you know in a moment. Those who are in opposition, Priscilla Leung, Lam Tai Phai, Ma Fong Kwok, Ng Leung Sing, Phyllis Chung, Yik Chi Ming, Wong Kwok Kin, Kwok Wai Keung, Chan Kin Po, Chen Kam Lam, Elizabeth Quat, Yu Si Wing, Christopher Chung, Leung Chi Chung, and Christopher Chung. The clerk. The voting result is 10 for, 17 against. Alan Leung, Kenneth Leung, James To, Claudia Mo, Raymond Chan, Leung Kwok Hong, Sit Ho, Kenneth Chan, they are in support. Did I miss anybody? Those who are in opposition, Wong Kwok Kin, Kwok Wai Keung, Chen Kin Po, Chen Kam Lam, Elizabeth Quat, Yu Si Wing, Christopher Chung, Leung Chi Chung, Priscilla Leung, Lam Tai Phai, Ma Fong Kwok, Ng Leung Sing, Phyllis Chung, Frankie Yik, Chen Kin Po, Michael Tian, Christopher Chung, 17. Did I miss anybody? So the result is that the motion is vetoed. Next, there are two more motions. I don't think we can process them because this is it is past 5:30 already. We'll have to roll this over to the next regular meeting as matters are rising. We'll process those two motions at the next meeting. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.